Hi, I'm Gabriel Smiley,
And I'm Elaine Smiley.
and we're the Smileys
In
Zambia. We are going down our list of things to talk about, and we found a really interesting one, which I think Elaine will have a lot to talk about, a lot to
Definitely.
share. We're going to talk about driving in Zambia.
Yeah, and I know that I changed up my hairstyle. I actually took my braids out, and it's very easy to kind of do that here. That can actually be for our next episode in regards to how convenient you can do your hair out here.
Yes, but today we're talking about driving.
Yes, so driving. Ugh.
So what do you think as a passenger in Zambia? Before we get into it, Elaine's not really a driver, so she can talk about this as a passenger.
No, let's do this. Let's talk about it for real. So Elaine is a phenomenal driver.
Just not in Zambia.
But I'm not a driver in Zambia because they drive on the opposite side of the road.
So let's talk about it. Even though you're not a driver,
Yeah, I'm a walker here.
You've been driven around a lot by
I
me
have.
and others.
Yeah.
What do you think? What is it like being on the road? And first, we're going to talk about being on the road in Lusaka, where we live, and then we'll talk about other trips.
Yeah.
But what's it like driving around Lusaka?
So it's a little hectic, I would say. I would say that there's no sidewalks. So people tend to walk in the street. And when I mean tend to walk into the street, I mean like they're like almost in the middle of the lane. And when I mean people, it's children. It's people who pushing carts.
People
It's-
carrying stuff on their head.
It's everything. So
And there's a lot of people.
it's a lot of people. And then there's also drivers who have really big cars. You also have like, what is that little thing?
Push carts. And
No,
the trolley, the
if your car tips over.
So that's part of the hazards that we'll talk
Ah.
about. But yeah, it's really, really busy here. So when you drive, you're on the left side, which is hard enough.
Yes.
And then it seems to me that there's not that many rules. There's no traffic lights.
No, there's no traffic
Very
lights.
few lanes are marked, whether this is a turning lane or
No.
not. Every street is a two-way street. There's no such thing as a
The
one-way street.
roundabout is so confusing because there's like 2 or 3 lanes for a roundabout. So it's like, how do you exit
Yes.
safely
So that's the roundabouts.
while
are really,
there are pedestrians walking?
Right. There's roundabouts everywhere. We call them rotaries. And instead of just one lane, there's 2 lanes. And what I've been told is that when you're driving in a rotary, you go to the inside lane before you're getting ready to exit. But that means somebody on the inside lane is going to exit, and they're going to have to pass somebody on the outside lane.
it's too
So
stressful.
it's really, really, really confusing.
So that's why I don't drive. Also, people drive extremely fast. There is speed limits. They'll tell you 60, 40, 80, 100.
in the city, you don't see many speed limits.
No, you don't. Then there's a lot of bumps. So there's like these, like random bumps placed everywhere,
And
which
in
I think that
Lusaka-
helps slow people down.
Definitely. When she says bumps, she means speed bumps.
Yes.
That sometimes they sneak up on you and you go flying over them and
And I
everything.
hate when Gabriel, and I'm always yelling at him. I try to help him as a passenger.
Okay, well, we're going down into another episode. But at the same time, there's no lights. There's no traffic lights.
No.
I've also been told that when I said, well, if I come to an intersection, how do I know if I should go or the other person
Yeah.
should go? Do you remember what they said?
Whoever gets there first and whoever's courteous.
They said, yeah, the first person that gets to the intersection is the first one to go. And if you have cars coming in 4 directions,
And what
it's
happened
hard-
what happened if you're not a nice person?
and it's hard to keep track of, was I here before these
Yeah,
other 3
exactly.
people? So it's a lot of like using your intuition. I tell Elaine all the time, I just assume that everybody else doesn't want to die. So I assume that they're going to get out of the way.
And I don't agree with that because I've seen people walk. As a walker here in Lusaka, I see people just bolting out into cars, purposely moving into
Yeah,
lanes.
people push into traffic.
Yeah,
But
it's very scary.
especially if you have a big car, they tend to get out of your way.
Yeah, and he got a big car.
And the other thing that I want to talk about is even though there's all this pandemonium, chaos, lawlessness, you still don't ever hear anybody honk a horn.
No.
There's no conflicts. There's accidents.
There's
but
not a lot of road rage.
Yeah, when there's an accident, people help each other.
It's true. And also people who are also driving say, oh no, you were wrong. that person. Remember the driver from school when he
Oh,
was
yeah.
kind of dictating?
Yeah, he actually
became like a ref.
Yeah, he said no, he was right because in that particular situation, it was a white guy that had been in an accident with a Zambian dude, black Zambian, and I've heard that typically if a white person gets in an accident, they always blame the white person, regardless of what happens. But our driver at that particular time
Yeah.
said no, and he actually took the side
I don't
of the
think
white
it has
person.
so much as the white. I think it has so much to do with the fact that they're not locals.
They're out of towners.
And the local people drive very.
They have their way.
They have their way, and they have been doing it successfully. You know, so when you have a foreigner coming in and they're driving like what they think it should be, accidents tend to happen.
Yeah. And do you remember the one time we did hear a lot of horns honking? What was the situation?
Oh my God! Somebody flipped over. Not that one.
No, we'll save that for another episode too. When we were driving home, I forget where we were coming from, and there was actually a stoplight, and we had a green. And we get in, there's so much traffic.
Oh my
Do you remember
God,
what
yes,
happened?
I do remember. So we're thinking, oh, we have a green, and there's like a massive amount of people. It was like a market or something like that. I want to say it's near Soweto Market, which is one of the busier markets here. So as we're going and we're like, oh, it's green. Gabriel is oblivious. He's like, oh, it's green. I
It's
have
green.
my time.
I'm trying to go.
All of a sudden, this other car comes from this way, and guess what? They have a green light as well. So there were greens all the way around, and luckily,
And that was the time we
I
heard
was the
honking.
helpful passenger, and I said, stop.
Elaine helped us navigate through that
Yeah, I
intersection.
do that all the
but
time.
The only time I really heard like honking, like a traffic jam you would hear in New York,
Yeah.
is because greens were in both directions and nobody could understand.
And even
why.
people were looking through the car like, I don't know what's happening. So, I mean, I think it was very interesting. And then once you kind of like, you know, manage to survive that, then you have to deal with the cops.
Yes, and driving. So we've actually had a couple of recent experiences
Yeah,
with the cops on a
which is
recent
very
trip.
frustrating.
Usually it happens between city to city, so not within Lusaka.
Yeah.
And there are some other hazards that you deal when you get out of the
So
city.
in New York, you have to worry driving while black or driving while brown in New York. You're not stressful in regards to that because all of the cops basically are black. They're black Zambians.
But when you're on the road, when
Yeah.
you're on the highway,
They're going to make sure that you're meeting the speed limit that's indicated.
and even if you are, they're still going to come out and say stop.
Yeah.
And they have a really serious face and they pull you
Very
over.
nervous-wracking.
Even if you're under the speed limit, they say stop. And then you wait in the car and you say, oh my God, did I do something wrong? What's going to happen?
And I usually yell at Gabriel because he tends to drive fast, or he goes, I'm following the, what is it? I'm following the speed of traffic.
I'm following the flow of traffic.
Flow of traffic. You don't know if that person is
But-
driving the right way.
Even here on our recent trip, I made sure to follow the speed limit to the T, and they still stopped me.
4 times, right?
I think we got
3.
stopped 4 times at the trip. And what I've learned is that,
You pay your ticket up front.
yeah, exactly. They just want their money. So they'll pull you over and they'll
Yeah.
argue with you and they'll try to make it seem like it's a
Yeah.
really big
so
deal.
you basically pay your fine.
But you just say,
upfront.
okay, I'm in a rush. Is there any way I can go now? And they say, get in the car, and then you do your thing,
And then you
you
go.
go on your way.
And the goal is that if you have a wife like me, you will make sure that he tries to follow it, because as much as there seems to be no laws, there is.
So Elaine and I have very different philosophies.
Mm-hmm.
She says, follow the speed limit to the T. Make sure they have no reason to pull you over. Stay safe and you'll be fine. Personally, I think that no matter what I do, they're going to pull me over. So just accept it, have some money ready to go on my way, and just know that's part of driving out here.
And I think that is also a privilege of his skin color and his sex. So his
And-
gender, I should say.
Or-
Because he is a white man, and when we are stopped in New York or anywhere in America,
I mean, I never bribe anybody in New York.
no, it's not, we're not bribing, we're paying our fee.
I never do that in New York.
So the thing is that the situation more than anything else is we're used to making sure that we have to be extremely safe because our life is at risk. And I feel like when a person is driving, and I tell them this all the time, you are the driver, but you also have passengers' lives.
Elaine's probably right,
I
but
am right.
I've accepted that it's going to happen and there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm just going to try to get my family
There
back on track
safely, and
as
that's
soon as
what we've
possible.
been doing. So but we've had a little bit more run in. And just the other day when we got back to Lusaka, Gabriel called me. He was like, "Oh, I got pulled over again."
This one I
And I'm
didn't
just
do
like,
anything wrong.
you
They
know.
just
So
keep
it's
pulling
like,
me over.
I think he's doing something wrong. But either way, it's hazards.
Yes, and what other hazards when you're going between cities do you have to look out for?
So you got to watch out for goats, cows, cyclists, And more than anything else, the roads are terrible. So you might come along with a wonderful road, nice and smooth, and you're enjoying it. Then all of a sudden, there's no road, and it's extremely bumpy. And then there's a road, but then there's crater-sized potholes that can really destroy your car. And the best bet would be slowing down so you can go into the dip and going out. Gabriel's philosophy is going extremely fast over the bump in order for us to kind of hit our heads and break the car.
I have nothing to say.
But there's a lot of hazards.
So that's a little bit about driving here in Zambia.
Yeah.
Click on the subscribe button. I always wanted to say that. I don't know if we have a subscribe button yet. But
Yeah.
We'll be back we'll be back.
Thank you. And Lusaka out.